This episode of the Beauty Industry podcast was brought to you by Digital Bloom, helping hair, beauty, and fashion brands thrive online. Hello and welcome to the Beauty Industry podcast, your online support community for the professional beauty industry. I am your host, founding director of Beauty Industry, Tamara Shaw. Here we are closing the competitive gap and speaking your language. This is a platform created and dedicated to the professional beauty industry, valuing community over competition. We serve to help connect you with inspiration from industry experts, expand your knowledge through educational pieces, and bring you the latest in product and technology innovation. This is Beauty Industry. My guest today is easily the most colourful person I've had on the podcast to date, in both literal colour with her fluoro green hair and clothing, but also in language. So this is a language warning. There are a few naughty words on this one, so if you're in the car with kiddies or playing this in a public space, you may want to save this one for a solo listen. Cass Barrie, my guest today, is the owner of a multisite hairdressing space called Diamond Cut, and he's also a mindset and empowerment coach at Be a Badass, who channels energy and works with crystals to create good vibes in customer servicing spaces and also to bring out leadership qualities in business owners. I was lucky enough to have this conversation in person with Cass in my home in Queensland, with the sun shining just before she jet-setted off to Canberra right after our recording, and we could not stop talking. If you haven't already noted the timing on this episode, it's a biggie, as Cass and I go deep down the crystal rabbit hole and the energy rabbit hole about leadership, team, and self. We accidentally blew the audio out with our laughing on this episode, so apologies for that one in advance. I did think about cutting this episode in half and seeding it out across 2 Monday episodes, but I think you'll want to listen to this conversation in its entirety, as that is just how captivating Cass really is. You're going to love this episode. Here's Cass and I. Cass, take 2.
Yeah.
Technical difficulties. I didn't press record on the first one, but we'll deal with that. So I first saw you on a live that you were doing, talking about crystals and your story and your journey, and then that went into leadership, and there was so much about that I was like, oh my God, I need this girl. Mm-hmm. The day after or 2 days after, saw you at Brisbane Hair and Beauty Expo.
Yeah.
Launched onto your back like a spider monkey. Yeah. I was like, I need you. I'm telling you, but I'll come back later.
Yeah.
Because I was working shooting that day for the expo. And then when I did reach out to you, I was like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? Love what you're doing. Our audience need to know more about you. And you were like, actually, let's be humans and let's actually just sit down and have a coffee. And so we did that.
Yeah.
And I loved like everything you were saying. We went like quite down the rabbit hole, which I'm sure we'll probably do today, knowing us. But just like everything you were saying about leadership and being able to find yourself, and you know, I've had a similar discovery in terms of like, who am I? How am I being a leader? Am I being a manager? What does that look like in the business? You know, and I think you really resonate with that quite heavily as well. Definitely. And so that's why I wanted to bring you on the podcast today. You're a hairdresser.
Yes.
The first hairdresser we've ever had on the podcast because we're beauty, only for the beauty industry. But I'm happy to cross-pollinate industries because I think what you're doing and saying is really cool.
Awesome.
And I want you to share your story and where it all began for you, and how you kind of entered into what you're doing today.
Yeah, awesome. So definitely my background obviously is hairdressing. I've been hairdressing for 17 years now. It's crazy to think it's been that long. I don't feel that old. But I've had a couple of salons in the past. I now have 2 salons as well. I have had wholesale supply businesses for the hair industry. I've even been in network marketing. Business has just kind of been my thing.
Yeah.
Always. But definitely, yeah, hairdressing has been my passion. Up until just recently, I've actually unfortunately had to come off the floor due to an injury, which that's totally fine. But I fell into the hairdressing industry literally by accident. I was doing mechanics when I was in high school.
Right.
Yeah, I was actually doing a certificate for mechanics. And then I dropped out of school.
Yeah.
So I dropped out, so I didn't finish that certificate. I went and worked in like Hungry Jack's and just floated and was just like, you know, a shithead, really.
I think we all are at that age.
Yeah, exactly. And so then my parents actually sort of said to me, my dad's always been a tradesman. He's a boilermaker, and my mum has been a florist, like she's a florist. So they've always worked with their hands. They've always kind of had something to fall back on.
Yeah.
And that was the biggest thing that they said to me. That was like, get a qualification, get a trade.
Yeah.
So they offered to pay for for anything I wanted to do at TAFE. And I just kind of went, oh, hairdressing, that looked easy.
Yeah.
Was I wrong? But yeah, no, so I did my certificate and landed my first apprenticeship at the first job interview I went for. And yeah, that was 17 years ago.
Amazing.
So I then kind of went on a bit of a journey through hairdressing, through my apprenticeship, through a couple of different salons. And I was working a particular salon one day, and I actually had an anxiety attack on the way to work. Or like actually didn't even make it out the door. I was dressed, ready to go, and I couldn't make it off the chair. My boyfriend at the time was getting ready to drive me to work.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I can't move.
Wow.
I can't. And I was just not in a good salon.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it was just not a good work environment.
Yeah.
And it finally just hit me. So then I actually went and did a makeup certificate. I was like, okay, cool, that will kind of go hand in hand. And so that was then my sort of first experience in like the beauty industry, and really enjoyed learning a little bit more about skin and things like that. So
You
that's
are one of us.
Yeah, literally, secretly. And then I sort of realized that like the industries aren't separate. Like we can sort of merge together. And where I did my makeup certificate, I connected with a lot of beauty therapists and things like that. So it was really cool to see the actual hair and beauty industry as a whole.
Yeah.
And then that's when I sort of started to look into the thought of having a salon and what I could do and what other things I could have.
Yeah.
In 2010, I opened my first salon.
Wow. Oh my goodness. 9 years.
9 years.
Far out.
Yeah.
Wow. Well done.
Yeah.
Business is tough.
It is so tough. So tough. Business and then life on top of it is hard. So we had a lot of ups and downs. I opened my first salon, outgrew that space in 2 years. So then we relocated to a bigger location. Yeah. And that's when shit hit the fan. Yeah. And where I started to make all of my mistakes and learn all of my lessons the hard way. Yeah. So that was definitely when I started to employ people. And that's where it's
where we learn.
Yeah,
the
definitely.
people.
The more humans involved.
I want to ask you, when you had that moment and you were sitting on the chair, couldn't get out of it, didn't want to go to work, what was the environment in that space that made you feel like that?
So I was actually employed at this salon as a manager.
Oh, yeah.
And the owner at the time was pregnant. Mm-hmm. And so she wasn't really in the salon. So I was, to be honest, fresh out of my apprenticeship. Yeah. But I'd been in a 2IC position previously, so obviously that's where it led into management. And because I was new, I found a lot of the other employees were still the favourite.
Yeah. You're the new kid.
Yeah. Even though I was hired as the manager, I found and felt that the apprentices that were there actually had more leeway than I did. Yeah. And more control over the situations and things like that. So I really just started to feel disrespected as just a person. There was no communication, no communication at all. Yeah. And it was a city salon. I'd never worked in a city salon before, so it was high paced. We were, I guess, higher on price range. So there was a quality of service that I'd never necessarily been taught before. So it was just messy. And I just didn't want to be there. I didn't feel welcome. I didn't feel a part of a team. Even though I was supposed to be the salon manager.
Yeah.
So it just kind of, got a little bit.
It's funny that you say communication, because when I was in a role, and I won't mention what the role is because then everyone will know what the company was and they'll know who it was. But I was in a particular role and there was a lot of secrecy, you know, and I was hearing something from somebody and then my higher up would say something and then someone would go, no, that's not correct, but we did this differently. And that's when for me, like the communication, I was like, why aren't people just telling me the bloody truth? Yeah. Why are we keeping secrets? Why aren't people telling me what it is? Why are we all hearing different things from everyone? And I think, you know, even if you're a manager, even in the position that I was in at that time, it's like you still don't want to be lied to. You still just want to be told the truth. You want to be just black and white, you know, and that's something I talk a lot about is you're dealing with people. Like we forget this and we try and, you know, and as you said, which I'm sure we'll touch base on, like when you started making wrong decisions, like you forget sometimes there's a little bit of ego in that, like, I'm the manager, I'm the business owner, I'm the leader. Yeah. And then we literally just forget who we're speaking to and that we've been there and we've been them. And how did that feel if somebody was doing that to us?
100%.
What was your kind of moment then in that 2010, maybe 12 actually, when you then opened the second space? What were you doing that you realised, okay, I'm not being a good leader?
100%. I was trying to do it all. That was my biggest thing. So I was on the floor full time. I was trying to run the business. I'd already fallen behind in my first 2 years with tax debt. Business decision with a renter room and FPOS machines.
I just signed on for GST the other day and now I'm like, oh my gosh, don't come for me.
No. My accountant just, like, she doesn't even say anything to me anymore. She just sends me an email and it just says BAS.
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so I'd already like sort of moved with mistakes and a debt. And back then I had a severe attachment to money, and all of that, as a lot of people do. So there was a lot of stress just around money. And then I'm very black and white. So if there's something wrong, it's noticeable. It's right in front of you.
Yeah. Besides the green hair.
Besides the green hair. Yeah. And actually all my tattoos, like, I'm very covered up today. So I started putting my shit on everyone. Yeah. You know, and then clients started to see it. We actually, when we relocated to this larger location, there was a few salons along the same street. Yeah. We were cyberbullied online for about a month. Yeah, right. Like negative reviews, like all this kind of stuff that were just like fake.
By those other salons?
Yeah, one other salon in particular. To the point we had clients who had sort of said to us, oh, my friend goes there, and they actually asked them to make an account and leave a review.
No.
Yeah.
People are awful.
Yeah. So needless to say, that salon no longer exists.
Karma.
100%. So that was like, you know, I had this massive excitement that I just moved. Like, we had a massive shop front. It was like 10 meter floor to ceiling windows. Like, it was amazing. So I was on this massive high of hiring new people, and then just kind of like the world happened. Yeah. And then I just let it get to me, and it just took me down, and I couldn't dig myself out. Yeah. Like, I just kept, every time I saw like a little bit of a way out, I took it, but it was the easy way. Yeah. So then I actually fell back further. Yeah. So in the end, unfortunately, with that salon, I came to the end of my 3-year lease, and I was that far in debt. I was that behind in rent, ATO debt, all that kind of stuff. I just said, here's the keys. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was pregnant at the time as well.
Oh my gosh.
So I was just like, ugh, life's too hard right now. Like, just walk away. And I felt like a total failure. Total failure. I'd let so many people down. You know, my family, my friends, all of the people that invested with me to start these salons to begin with, and just the time it takes to build the salon, all of those kind of things. I was just like, no. I totally failed everyone.
Yeah. And that's what it feels like at the time.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's so funny how, like, retrospectively, we can, like, look back and see ourselves going through that spiral. And we're like, oh, but if we just did this one thing, or if we just did this, but when you're in it, and this is what I see of a lot of beauty business owners, or just business owners in general, when you're in it, you don't even know that you're in it.
Yeah.
And that's when you can be super reactive and like defensive, you know, and blaming everyone else.
I know everything. I don't need your help.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So talk to me then. I mean, now you talk a lot about leadership. How did you find your way from being down there in the shit? And I should have put a language warning on this prior to.
Yeah, definitely. I've only said shit so far. Like, we're doing good.
Because you're colourful, not only in person, but language, which I actually love.
Descriptive words. Like, come on.
So if you have little kids and you're playing this in the car, or if you're watching this, I don't know where, but this is the warning.
Yeah.
Turn off now. But like, how did you get from being in that space and what decisions did you make? How did you look at yourself and then do what you're doing now?
Yeah.
You know.
Well, this is the part that's even more messed up, really, I guess, in a way, because I was already so far down this hole that life and the universe actually decided to throw me back down a little bit further to really make me wake up and realize and to make the changes. So it was October 2015. I had handed my keys back. I actually had, like, my mum and I had a retail store next door to the salon. So that was still going well. My mum had her floristry business, all that kind of stuff. So it actually had like a little tiny back room. So I had put a basin and a mirror, and that was going to be the plan. I was going to have the baby. I was just going to do hair, and mum would look after the baby, and, you know, that would just be enough to keep me, you know, in the game. So that was October. In November of that same year, my husband was actually overseas with his band. They were recording in a studio over there. He is a bit of a rock star. But unfortunately, he actually never made it home. So he was 26 and a couple of days before they were meant to come home, he just never woke up.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was obviously life-changing. I was 30 weeks pregnant.
God.
We'd only been married for 9 months, so we got married earlier that year. So, you know, only 9 months of marriage and a baby on the way. And I already felt like a failure and that I'd let everyone down. And then my life was just changed. I had no control over it. So I was done. Absolutely done. I sold everything. The only thing that I kept was like my favorite hairdryer and my scissors. Like everything. And so then I focused on obviously keeping myself alive and the human that I was growing alive.
Oh my gosh.
Which I now 100% believe like my son was my strength that kept me going. And that kept me going into a darker place. Because I was already pretty close. So I didn't give a shit about people. I was like, I don't care about your regrowth or your grey hairs. Like, I don't care.
There's
Shave your head.
things going on.
Like, whatever.
For sure.
And I actually left the industry completely for about 2 years.
Wow.
Like, I'm talking, I would my mum had to go to another salon.
Wow.
Like I wouldn't even cut my brother, like I would not cut or do anything hair related.
Yeah.
Even my own hair. I just had regrowth. I was like, balayage! Let's go with that.
Trendy.
Yeah. Because like, so my husband Glenn, he was with me at the peak and the highest of highs and the lowest of lows in my career. And hairdressing and having salons was such a massive part of my life. So I'd already failed and let that part of my life down.
Yeah.
Then, you know, my other half of my soul was gone.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't fake it anymore.
No.
I just was like, I just couldn't. It was too hard basket.
Yeah.
And so that's really what trajected me in a whole different direction and pushed me and forced me to work on me.
Yeah. And do you know what? I see that story so much that, and it's so, there's no other words besides fucked, and I'm going to be the first one to swear. We did it. But there's no other word besides that it takes loss or it takes a situation to go that deep for someone to go, like, I need to change.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's almost, I don't want to use the word awakening because it's almost like it's not even like that.
Yeah.
But it's like so many times people have that, or, you know, their partner, their parents, and then they go, okay, from this day forward, no more shit, no more stuffing around. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to change. I'm going to be a better person, a different person, whatever that looks like. And now I'm doing it for them. But it's wild to me to think that we have to go there.
Yeah, and the thing is, but you don't.
Yeah.
And that's my mission now. That's my main focus now, is to help people make those pivotal changes in their lives before something shitty happens.
Yeah, good.
Before you lose that person.
Yeah.
Like, I am eternally grateful that Glenn and I really were already living our lives to the full.
Yeah.
I've always kind of been a bit of a balls to the wall kind of girl.
Yeah.
If I want it, I'm going to make it happen.
Good. Okay.
But now I'm just doing that even better than what I was doing.
Yeah.
I'm achieving even more than what I had.
Yeah.
Much, like, largely to all of those mistakes that I learned, especially in business.
Yeah.
But in life now as well, because it's pushed me into more of a spiritual path, a higher connection, all of that kind of stuff. But that's the thing, is you don't have to wait for something to go to shit to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
I had my shit story as well. When I was at a business, and I've spoken about this openly on the podcast, so this isn't news to anybody, but when I was managing my first ever day spa, I was like that. I was like full of ego, waltzing in, waltzing out. What do you mean you need help? You can figure it out, you know, blah, blah, blah. You're a big girl. And then I got cervical cancer at 23. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not invincible.
Yeah.
My now husband actually broke up with me at the time because he was like, you're being a dick. Like, you're treating everyone just disgustingly. You're pushing your friends away, pushing your family away because you think you're the manager of some day spa. And I was lying in hospital on my 24th birthday having cervical cancer surgery.
Yeah.
Going, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, how did I get here? And not having anyone to phone to come and get me because I'd pushed my parents away. I'd pushed him away. So he was like, look, I know you need me, but I need myself, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'll just get a taxi from the hospital. And they were like, no, somebody has to come and like check you out and pick you up. And I was like, right. But it's like, that was my moment as well.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering for you then, what steps did you take to then make yourself be a better person, a better leader, a different, you know, it might not have even been better, but to get out of there?
Yeah. So definitely I became a mum.
Yeah.
So that's like next level shit, man. Like, that's like, all right, where do we go from here? Literally. So honestly, like, a lot of the help actually came from my network marketing community.
Yeah, right.
Because it was such a global community. And if you've ever been a part of anything network marketing, you know their events are all like personal development, self-help, live a better life, make money so you could that was sort of always, that's their main kind of have a side hustle so you can live the life you want. So I was massive in a network marketing community at the time. I was doing that as well as running a salon as well, and I'd been in that for about 4 years.
Making babies. Doing all the things.
I don't know the time when we even had the time to make that baby, but it happened. Maybe sneezed as he walked past or something. So I do accredit a lot of my growth to being in that community. And that's because that was what their drive was. That was their focus, was to live a better life. And I already thought I was living a great life. So that was a lot of, that really put me in touch with a lot of, speakers and books and all that sort of stuff. So when you're a mum and you're breastfeeding and you're basically just a milk bar and you have nothing else to do, that's life, is podcasts, documentaries, books, all of that kind of stuff that you can do one-handed. But then as well, my uncle actually passed away the day Franklin was born.
The same day.
So I've just had a baby.
Like a sliding doors moment, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And so my uncle was gay. And so back in sort of the 60s, 70s, when he sort of came out, it was a big thing.
Unheard of.
And it wasn't...
And shunned upon.
Exactly. So he actually packed up, from what I know, and he moved away. So really for a lot of my life, I only saw him every now and again. So I didn't know much about him. But we always got along to the point that we didn't get along because we were very similar. Same as my dad. And so when he passed away, my dad and Arnie and all that, they went down and cleaned out his house. And when Glenn, my husband, passed, a lot of people had started to gift me crystals and things like that. And even for pregnancy, I was starting, people were gifting me pieces, and I'd always had pieces or whatever. But then when my uncle passed, my dad went down to his house and he's like, rung me, and he goes, you know all those rocks that you have now? I'm like, yeah, Dad. He's like, well, Dougie has a whole room full of them. And my uncle worked with crystals and did tarot readings.
Amazing.
And so I was like, what is this? So then all of a sudden I had this instant connection to my spirituality. And it was thrust upon me to dive into that. And so then that's what progressed next, was my connection with crystals, the universe, my higher self, soul, all of that woo-woo shit. And then I've just kind of progressed and just put my own spin on it. I like to think that I'm a bit of a free spirit, a bit of a gypsy girl, but I'm a hard ass at it. So I've just kind of, I'm a badass woo-woo.
And I want to ask you about that because when we first met, I was telling you a story how when I was visiting a big team once, and, I'm quite driven, and I've had the big, 150K roles, and I've had, to anyone's definition of success, and I'm putting that in quotation marks for the podcast, you would see those roles and go, oh my God, that's successful. Do you know what I mean? And dealing with business owners and global business owners and, all of that thing, and boards and blah, blah, blah. And when I was telling one of the therapists one time, and I said, what do you do to clear your energy after treatments? And she was like, what? And I said, well, you're taking on so much from clients. How do you get rid of that and go into the next treatment? And she was like, Tamara, I would have never thought that you would be talking about energy. And I pulled out of my bag and I was like, I carry this rose quartz with me everywhere, especially when I travel and I'm away from my husband and my cat and my home. That's my little piece of home. And she was like, I would have never, ever got that from you because you're so straighty 180, you look perfect, in her words. And I know that I'm not, but in her words, she was like, I don't get that from you, and I was like, well, because I'm in this high role, high energy, in planes, literally ungrounded all the time, dealing with business owners who are ungrounded, I need to center myself and get myself organized. And so you and I are kind of like, we look like polar opposites.
Yeah.
We also look like polar opposites to what a traditional hippie woo-woo crystal person is as well.
100%.
What do people tell you, or like what's their reaction when you talk about crystals initially and like they're like, oh, that's too far out for me?
Surprisingly, like your story. So last year in one of my salons, we gifted the clients a little bag of pocket crystals.
Yeah.
So it was just like 5 or 6 little chips of crystals, and that was their Christmas gift. And I was like, people are going to be like, what the fuck are these rocks? Like, what is this shit?
She's lost it.
So many of our clients were like, oh my God, these are amazing. I've got crystals at home, or I've got this. And I was just like, wow, okay. Some of our clients who, like you're saying, I thought were total straighty 180s, ripped out crystals they already had in their handbags. And I was like, okay, all right.
My people.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I guess that's why you come to my salons.
Yes.
But for me, a lot of people, you do have some people that are like, oh, it's just a rock.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah.
Like, that's fine. I'm like, you'll actually be surprised you find crystals, you find clear quartz in like pretty much everything. Remotes, TVs, computers, all that kind of stuff. So I'm like, so crystals actually help your life run, but whatever, they're just rocks.
Yeah.
But my big thing that I say to a lot of people as well when I'm working with crystals and when I'm teaching people how to utilize them in their day-to-day life, at the end of the day, if you picked up a brick and you held that brick and you said, every time I look at this brick, I'm going to feel something, or I'm going to feel happy, or it's going to make me smile. You've set that intention on that brick. So it's going to do it.
Yes.
You know, it can be whatever it is that you want it to be. And in any space and time, it's just the power of our energy and our mind. Scientifically, and on the flip side, crystals actually do have energetic, you know, properties and vibrations. They are growing and all that kind of stuff. So in that way, that's obviously why we go with crystals over bricks.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it's just setting that intention. Directing your energy onto something else to help change your focus or to trigger a different thought or emotion and things like that.
Yeah.
So
cool.
For even those people who are just like, oh, it's just a rock. Cool. No worries.
Yeah. After the break, Cass and I deep dive into how she uses crystals and energy to actually focus on her leadership and her team. But first, a word from our sponsors. We all know just how important social media is, and nobody knows that better than Digital Bloom. If you're scratching your head for beautiful and engaging Instagram content, then Digital Bloom has you covered. It's as simple as investing in some kick-ass social graphics that will align with your brand style and budget. Say goodbye to that branding headache with $20 off your first order by heading to www.digitalbloom.me, that's .me, and entering in the code BEAUTE20, BEAUTE 20 at the checkout. Looking on point in the digital space never felt so good. And now, back to the episode. So I want to ask you then about leadership, because this is like my favorite conversation ever. How do you like take the crystals into your business? Do you, if so, like use them for leadership, for setting intentions with your team? You know, what does that look like for you?
So, leadership for me obviously completely changed when I discovered myself.
Yeah.
And that was helped with energy work, crystals, soul connection, all of that kind of stuff. So to me, they're such a vital part of my life.
Yeah.
So they have to be a part of my businesses.
Cool.
So my salons are gridded. So they've all got crystals in all corners to create an energy grid, help cleanse energy as it comes and goes.
Yes.
We smudge regularly as well. So that helps with the energy.
Yes.
But for me, just having communication with the team.
Yeah.
All of my team actually have crystals in their trolley. So different crystals for different, like, there's like throat chakra, creativity, all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
But we have personal development days throughout the year, and whether they're into it or not, there's something crystal related. So we can do like crystal grids, obviously vision boards. I do a really cool meditation visualization where you actually utilize a crystal and create that as your vision board. Awesome. So you're programming the crystal to hold the intention.
Yes.
So every time you then look at that piece, it's a trigger and send you on that journey of wherever or whatever you set it with.
Yes.
So we do that as a team. A lot of my team, I create jewelry and hair clips. A lot of my team use the jewelry and accessories in their before and after photos. Quite a few of my girls wear it. So it's just been something that I'm not forcing it or thrusting it upon them. They've just naturally asked me about it. I had one of my managers come and she spent $300 the other day on crystals. I was like, you just bought me out. Like, I have no stock left. But I think as well, because of that and how I conduct myself, how I market my businesses and all of those kind of things, I'm attracting those people. So my vibe is 100% attracting my tribe. And it's just worked in really well. But I think the biggest thing for me that's made the difference in my businesses is having like the energy grids.
So what is that for those who don't know? Like, what is a business grid, an energy grid? How do you do that in your space?
So there's heaps of different ways that you can do it. This is just something that I have put together myself, and these are crystals that I've chosen. And essentially, I guess we'll say I channel, the choice. There's obviously plenty of information out there about it, but I have selenite pieces. So selenite is a crystal that can clear energy.
Yes.
And it doesn't store it.
I have one just here.
Yeah, nice. Amazing.
Yeah.
So we actually have pieces of selenite in all four corners. So then that way, as energy is coming and going, it's being cleared.
Yes.
From customers.
Great.
From my team. And they all know where they are.
Yeah.
So they even subconsciously, when they walk past them or see them, I know they have that thought.
Yeah, they're like checking in, coming into work, clearing energy, whatever happened before I walked in the doors. Non-existent until I walk out again. Yeah. Love that.
And then we have big chunks of citrine on our front counters. I've got black obsidian, smoky quartz, all really strong grounding pieces that are in and around our front counter.
Yes.
But the biggest thing is that selenite grid is exactly that. Like, it's created 4 walls, 4 energy walls that energy can pass through.
I love that. We have, for anyone who's listening on the podcast, we've got a beautiful crystal here that Cass brought me in. So if I wanted to set an intention with this piece, what would I do?
So you would want to cleanse it and clear it. So it's come freshly cleansed from my stock.
Right.
So I have smudged it, and then I've used Paleo Santo wood to infuse it with some positive energy as well. But it can be as simple as just holding it, looking at it and focusing your thought and your intention. You can speak it out. Now I call in XYZ. So it's all just literally the power of your mind and your energy. So you can just simply hold the piece and just literally tell it what you want it to do. Yeah, 100%.
And then it is just like that little check-in point, like you were saying with the energy pieces. We had a question come through on the Facebook community about energy in particular, like stagnant energy. And I guess from a therapy point of view, like when you're performing a treatment, you're touching the client, and you can really feel that. And for me, I never really knew what energy was. I'd had crystals since I was really little, but just because I thought, I don't know, I just always gravitated towards them. When I was at markets and things, I would just pick this one up and I'd be like, yep, that's mine.
Perfect.
And so I was always like just energetically drawn towards a piece. But I've lost my thought process here.
The question was about clearing stagnant energy.
And so when I was actually in beauty school, I was having a treatment with a girl and I was the model on the bed and she did the massage on me. And I got off the bed and I was pissed off.
Yeah.
Like I was fuming, like so angry. And I was saying to my friends, like, I am so angry and that girl has given me something.
Yeah.
And they were like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You know, we're 18. They were like, what has she given you? And I was
Yeah.
like, no. I was more into like witchcraft and I was like, she's like put something on me. She's put like a hex on me, a spell on me, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then we were in a aromatherapy class and I talked to the teacher and I was like, I am so bloody angry after that treatment and I don't know why. And she was like, have a look at her energy. And she was like happy, floating around. So she's like, she's actually given that to you and now you need to get it away because you've swapped. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
This is like Alex Mack kind of stuff, you know, we're just changing energy. And so that's when I was like, right, there's something more to this, you know. But when we have a client who's like that, we don't want to take on that energy, but can we do something immediately in that space to help with this stagnancy?
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
Yeah, so I also work in a modality called access consciousness. And so it's simple little things like just clearings in, you know, speaking out aloud or in your mind.
Yeah.
So this is something that I teach my team.
Okay.
And that we utilize a lot. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. So in that situation, after the client's left, ideally we can't smudge and cleanse and dance
like, hang
around
on.
like after every client.
Yes.
And unfortunately I've come across some places that you can't smudge because you'll set off too many fire detectors and stuff like that.
That was me in my space.
Yeah.
I would smudge and then I would set off the whole Westfield shopping centre and I was like,
Oh crap. So a really, really simple tool that I utilize is just stand in the moment, feel into the energy.
Yeah.
So if you've noticed that your energy has shifted, which it's going to, energy wants to expand.
Yeah,
So it's
right.
going to grab onto other energy
Yes.
to expand.
yes.
So in that moment, I just like to stand there, hold space, feel into that energy, whether it's good or it's bad, and I ask myself, who does this belong to?
Yeah, right.
3 times over.
Okay.
Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? Who does this belong to? And whoever that first thought is that comes up,
Yeah.
then what we do is we return it to sender.
Right.
So again, focusing on that energy once you've figured out where it belongs. And I return to sender with consciousness attached. I return to sender with consciousness attached. I return to sender with consciousness attached. And just feel and envision that energy.
Yeah.
Give it a color if like that works for a lot of people. Give it a color or give it a shape or whatever, and literally feel and envision it
Yeah.
returning back to that person.
Right.
So you're not returning it to them and making them feel shit again.
I was going to say, if they have a bad energy and I'm putting that in the envelope and returning to sender,
Yeah, literally.
can I just like return that away from everyone?
Yeah, so you're not essentially sending it back to them and going to make it worse, and you know, you've just given them a great treatment and you're going to, oh, here, feel shit again.
Yeah.
But you need to return that energy back to the space of which it came.
Yeah, sure.
And so that's super simple. No one even needs to know you're doing it because you can just say that in your head.
Yes.
I've done it a couple of times as well. And there's been a few times where the person, I've had some issues with my jaw lately, like just really clenching and holding really heavy energy in my jaw. And there's been a couple of times that I've focused on it. And the person who came up was not who I thought it would be.
Really?
And so I've returned it. And then a couple of days later, I figured out why that person came up. And it's because they weren't honest in their communication with me.
Right.
So therefore, jaw, communication.
Yeah, throat chakra.
All that kind of stuff. And I'm just like,
Massive.
holy crap. But I've worked with quite a few beauty salon owners as well with crystals and things like that, because you guys actually touch your clients way more than we touch our clients.
Yeah.
And in a lot more like...
And like everywhere.
Yeah, like more
Literally.
private areas and things like that. So you really are a lot more susceptible to that energy latching onto you.
Yes.
And because I think the thing is as well is a lot of people come to the beauty therapists to relax in a different way than what they come to a hair salon.
Yeah, for sure.
But we still get it tenfold.
Oh,
like there is
massive.
So much. And my guys as well, from all of the work that I've done with myself, I can walk in and look at my team members now and just know, I'm like, you need to go outside.
Yes.
I'm like, go outside. Who does it belong to?
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, and they just kind of know what to do.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I really like that. Another question that came through from our group was, is this, like the crystal, the energy, all of that, is it something that can be taught, or is it like innate and more than us?
Oh, 100%. So especially like crystals at the end of the day, it's a textbook.
Yeah.
Get a book, you can learn about the crystals.
Yeah.
Every crystal has come across something at some point that somebody said, this is what this is for.
Yes.
I use that as a guide.
Yeah.
I work intuitively a lot. As I've mentioned, I've really connected with my higher self. And I'm not going down this like psychic kind of path or anything, but I've become a lot more intuitive, which I feel learning about my uncle and all that kind of stuff clearly was always within me.
Yes.
And we are all, conscious beings who have a subconscious mind, who have...
I was literally just thinking the word, it's like conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, my God. The subconscious is like blowing my mind right now because I'm learning so much about kind of NLP and the stories that are literally embedded in our cells from like 50 million years ago that we still believe and tell ourselves today.
Yeah.
And it's when you're having, like when you do something or when you have a thought, being conscious of that thought and why am I thinking that way, and now who does that belong to?
Yeah, exactly.
Love
it's
it.
Just asking a series of questions.
Yes.
I worked with a client yesterday and did a healing with her, and in the first 10 minutes of the conversation I asked a few questions and we got back to her being 6 years old and having a conversation with her grandma.
Wow.
And she has held on to that for like over 25 years. So
mental.
Just by asking the right questions, I was able to help her go back and progress from that point.
So cool.
So it is just being well aware, but there is a huge shift in the world.
Yeah.
It's not like this is just a fad that's just happened to pop up. The entire world is shifting and is awakening, I guess. Yeah. Some of the words in this industry, I'm just like, bleh.
Yeah.
But it's
journey.
Yeah, exactly. Let's go on a journey. So, but there is a massive shift in the world right now.
Yeah.
And people are just becoming more aware of themselves as beings and as, a soul.
Yeah.
Which is really cool.
So cool.
Really cool.
About time.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
We were chatting offline before the recording about like being a good human and having good humans in leadership roles. For the fact that you said before, and this is something that my team in previous leadership roles said about me as well, like, we can walk into a space and just straight away know.
Yeah.
Like I had a team member once, she was supposed to do the training that day and somebody else was going to be the model. And I said, do you know what? You're going to be the model. You get on the bed. I'll do the training because right now, like, you are not in the space to teach.
Yeah.
So what do you mean about like being a good human, and how do we get to that point of seeing stuff in others to then kind of help them, I guess?
Yeah. I was a selfish person.
Yeah.
Not like, oh my God, she's selfish, like in a mean, selfish way.
Yeah.
But it was all about me.
Yes.
And of course I cared and I loved, and I was a hairdresser. Like, I cared for others and I wanted them to, all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it was like, what do I get out of this?
Yes.
Yeah, cool, you're going to have great hair, but you're going to pay me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then it became more of, rather than a service money transaction, it became an energy transaction.
Yeah, right.
So I started diving into really being aware of how I felt, how I made others feel, and how we communicated.
Yes.
So for me, it's then just been a progression from there to really get to know my teams and really see them for who they are.
Yeah.
And ask questions.
Yes.
Which takes me further into their journey or into their story, and further into understanding what drives them.
Yeah.
A really super simple, quick method for those who perhaps aren't, on this woo-woo path or anything like that. Tony Robbins' disc test.
Yes.
Super simple. It's
Favorite.
free, and it literally gives you categories on how to best communicate with these people
And recognize behaviors.
Yep.
Yes.
It's black and white.
Love it.
It's so simple.
Yes.
And yeah, so for those who are listening, DISC is just DISC, and just go on Tony Robbins' website. It's totally free. It takes about 20 minutes. All my managers have done it.
Yeah.
And then my team have done kind of like smaller versions of it. Some of my team, I'm just like, I know your type.
Yes.
Like, straight away. But then for like my managers and things like that, my focus now is my management team.
Yeah.
And then everything stems down into the rest of the team.
Yes.
So I've done disc methods for all of them. And I just know how to communicate with them. The biggest thing is when it comes to having a team is you have to treat everyone differently.
Yes.
You can't have the same expectations for everyone.
Yeah.
And you can't communicate with everyone exactly the same.
Yes.
It just doesn't work. So you have to be flexible. You as the boss, as the owner, as the manager, whatever position you're in, you have to be the one that's open and willing to change.
Yes.
And there are so many situations where I've had moments with my team and I'm just like, you're killing me.
Yeah.
Like, this is going against all of my core values, all of my beliefs.
Yes.
Like, all of these things that I just can't handle. But I just had to hold space for them in that moment and understand that this was how they needed to express themselves.
Yes.
And this was the only way that they know how to express themselves. And rather than taking it on and being attacked and feeling like I was a shit boss and I'd done everything wrong, I just worked through it.
Yeah.
And then I move on to the next one and deal with it a different way.
Yeah.
That everyone is different. No two humans are the same.
Are the same. No. And a little shameless plug, we actually have in our membership program an entire segment on understanding your team.
Awesome.
And it's literally like going through the dominant personality, and then the Dory personality, and then somebody who is more shy and somebody who's more calculated, not only from a business owner point of view to understand their team, but too so that the team can look at their client and understand that as well. And really start to communicate better with their team, because that's really all it is,
100%.
It's being able to see your team and see their strengths and see the opportunities in them that you can instill, so then you can, as you have done, walked out of the business so much that now you've got your team who you don't have to micromanage. You can be here today 2 hours with me and know that everything is fine, the place is not going to burn down, because that's too what people want. People want to be heard and validated, and they want to be given the bigger roles. Is there ever a point where you feel like your just like inner self-control is like, I need to take back some of that control?
Oh, yeah, 100%. I open Instagram messages all the time. I'm just like, and then I have to message my general manager who runs our social media and be like, you need to reply to that client like now, because she's going to see that I saw the message and then she's going to be like, they didn't reply. But that is a big thing, actually. Yeah. It's funny that you brought that up, because that's probably one of the major key things as well, is I've just let go of control of everything in my life, to be honest.
Yeah, right.
What will be, will be.
Yes.
And that's, again, from the life lesson of losing my husband. I have no control over that.
Yeah.
Life happens for us, not to us.
Yeah.
And that's a
I've never heard that. I like that.
Yeah, and it does, because everything is a lesson.
Yeah.
No matter what level it is, everything is a lesson pushing us forward to be who we truly are. Because the thing is, we have been put here for a reason. We've all been put here for specific reasons.
Yes.
Our souls come and go for specific reasons. And that's why people are taken from us in our humanness too soon.
Yes.
The thing is, the soul came, it did what it had to do, its time was up. So that's a whole other podcast.
Oh my gosh, I know.
But 100%, it's not necessarily letting go of control, but if you have if you're the owner and then you have a manager, let your manager manage. Let them make mistakes. That's my thing. My guys have to make mistakes.
Yes.
If they don't make mistakes, or I'm always there to pick them up or go, oh no, I'll do this because you're going to do it wrong, no one's ever going to learn.
Yes.
And you're always forever going to be stressed.
Exactly right.
So, yeah, I'm about to take off to Canberra after here. Yay. I'm gone till next Tuesday I get back. I actually haven't been in my salon. Oh, I tell a lie. We had an apprentice. I helped her do a regrowth colour this week and got my colour done. But I was sitting in my salon getting my colour done. So I actually haven't worked in either of my salons.
Amazing.
I've got two at all. Actually, in the past 2 weeks, I haven't had any clients. So, yeah. And you know what? They'll contact me if they need to contact me. Yeah. I've hired them because I trust them.
Yes.
I've hired them because I trust and I respect them.
That's a big one.
And I've set the policies and procedures, all of that. They know what to do. They know if it starts to burn down to not call me.
Yeah.
I don't need to know.
And to, I guess, energetically, intuitively wise, you could be in Canberra and just go, oh, something's sitting in the back of my mind that I need to call them.
Yeah.
And you call them and they go, oh my God, I was about to call you.
Yeah.
You know,
and that's
at
happened.
that point now.
Yeah. So last year I was in New York. I actually ended up being in the States for 3 weeks. And there was a couple of times that I just messaged my general manager and be like, hey, how's things? And she's like, oh, the stock order hasn't arrived and this is gone. And she's like, we're dealing with it. And I was like, okay, cool. Yeah. So, and that's the biggest thing as well, is I've put it in place. So I'm like, if you're calling me with a problem, call me with a solution as well.
Yes. Awesome.
And that's just, they just know. I'm
Yeah.
not always a nice person. I'm not always spiritual and woo-woo and trusting and not a control freak. I'm still human.
Yeah.
I'm still a woman.
Yes.
I'm still a business owner. All of those kind of things. But they just, I trust them.
Yeah. And you know what? It's funny that you say, I'm still a human and I still have control, because now, in this role, in this capacity, at the level that beauty industry is at, the audience is getting so big that people are noticing more slip-ups. Not more slip-ups, I shouldn't say that, but there are more people to notice more things, So I do everything in the business myself.
Yep.
Everything. We have 6 different programs and ways that you can come into beauty industry, and I write every piece of copy and content that you will ever see.
Yeah.
And so if there's a spelling mistake on that, now, because we have 10,000 combined on our socials, 40,000 on the podcast, people know.
Yeah.
And I get attacked for that.
Wow.
And I'm like,
fuckers.
I'm a human. Yeah. Literally. I was sitting, when was it? Just Friday gone. My husband and I were sitting here playing cards. We sound like old people, but we were drinking and we had R&B on. And I wrote a caption prior to that, and somebody said, this would have made so much more sense if you had spelt the word right. And I spelt loose instead of lose. Yeah. And I was like, it's Friday night. I'm sitting here having a drink. Do I really need that in my life? Yeah. But I was like, I'm a human. Yeah. This is not a bot that's responding to you. This is not somebody who, we were talking about ego, and obviously I like to be on camera. I like to be on podcast. Obviously that's why we've got this. But it's I'm not bigger than myself to go, oh my God, I'm never going to make a spelling mistake. I'm never going to make a wrong decision in the business, because that's bloody life. Yeah. I say stupid shit all the time. I literally walk into the salon sometimes and I'll just bust out, and then I get this look from a client. I'm like, sorry. But then I'm like, you know what? Not sorry.
It's It's okay. Because then sometimes I walk in and the client's like, oh my God, you're hilarious. Oh my God, that was funny. Or like, oh my God, this happened. Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, so for me as well, but in that situation, that person and what I do is I return to sender. That's a big return to sender. Like, because you know what? The fact that they picked up on that and they judged you for that is it's actually, and we hear it all the time, it's their own insecurities. It's their own judgment. It's their own issue around it.
Yes.
Because at the end of the day, so I had a situation recently. I'm a contractor, freelancer, I don't know what we're calling it, but I work for an educator for a colour company.
Yeah.
And so she had put up a couple of posts and there was like a big spelling mistake in them. And I saw it in one and I was like, oh, it's all right. I'll just, you still know what the word is. Yeah. But then it happened again. And I know, and like she'd said to me, she's actually dyslexic.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
But for me, the thought wasn't like, oh my God, I can't believe you made a spell. My thought was, someone's going to attack.
Yes. And so I have these people, like my mum and my mother-in-law, are like, they will screenshot me right away and go, you've spelt this wrong. But the difference is I know it's coming from a good place. Yeah. Rather than like it's a nasty, this would have been so much better if you spelled, like.
Who the fucking says that?
Why are humans like that?
Yeah. And it's their own issues. It's their own mistakes. It's their own judgment. And I do so many spelling mistakes, and because I've got heaps of pages, and sometimes I'll do like this really awesome one and then I'll copy and paste and then I'm like, oh my God,
I spelled it wrong in the first one
and
now I've got to go change it on 5 pages.
I just don't. I'm just like, does it read right? It makes sense. Yeah, cool. Fine. Awesome. Let's go with that. People know what I'm trying to say at some point. If not, whatever.
Who cares?
Unfollow. Unlike my page. I don't care. But unfortunately, that is the human side. And it is a lot easier to actually hold on to and be negative than it is to be happy.
Yes.
Which sounds so freaking crazy, but it is.
Yeah. And Nathan is like the first person to go, put your phone down. Why is that sending you into like hysterics? Yeah. Who cares? It's just some person with a dog as her profile picture. You don't you don't need to put your energy into that, you know. And unconsciously, he's very like, and he's like, I can feel the shift in you. Yeah. Just forget about it. And I'm like, all right, So it's always good to have that kind of person as well. Yeah,
definitely. And you need those people. You need those people who can bring you in.
Yes.
And
ground it all back.
Ground you all. Anchor you back in place. Give you a, swift kick in the head occasionally. I need those every now and again. A bit of a slap. And, it all helps. But that's the thing. It 100% is your vibe attract your tribe.
Yeah,
it's allowing the people in and their energy. Yeah. And then also removing the people and their energy. So you have total control over all of that.
And what you take home.
More people just have to be aware and understand.
Yeah.
And know that it's up to them.
Amazing.
Yeah.
One last question for you. If somebody is listening, watching, and is like, yes, I want to do this, I want to do crystals, I want to feel energy, like where is the first place they start, or what do they do right away?
So the biggest thing really would just be tapping into yourself.
Yeah.
Really starting to focus on your energy shifts. So in the moment, like, are you waking up and what's happening when you wake up? Or taking note of those trigger points where you do go from, really happy to, I want to stab someone with, a toothbrush or the scissors.
The derma pen.
Yeah, literally, like microdermabrasion your whole face off. So it's just acknowledging there and figuring out, is it an outside source?
Yeah.
Or is it an internal thought?
Yes.
Or is it, like, I am so grateful, and I know, we're on a podcast and stuff, but I've never had major body issues or concerns. So, of course, I, have looked at myself and gone, shit, you need to lose some weight, or like, look at your hairy legs. Like, but I've not been one that's been consumed by my image. Yeah. Whereas I've worked with clients who I know looking in the mirror is a trigger point.
So much.
So, do something in your day to minimize that, if you can. Like if that's what really sends you down a, not so good path.
Yeah.
If that's the switch that gets flicked when you're getting dressed or whatever, or take control of that situation.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're going to work and there's a staff member or something that you or a colleague or whatever that you always get triggered and you're always around them, minimize the time that you're around them. I've had some situations where I have gotten to work early, and then this person who I'm having issues with, I know they get to work early all the time. So I'm like, actually, you know what, I'm just going to stay in the car. I'll do what I need to do in the car, and then I'll go in just before, at the time I need to go in. Rather than being in there while they're there and taking on their shit. So that's going to be your biggest thing. And a lot of people don't sort of realize that as energy or whatever. They're just they just know that there's a change. But that's exactly, it's an energy transaction. So noting down those trigger points or those moments when your energy shifts. And figuring out whether it's an outside source or it's internal. And then you can determine what you need to do with it. Where you can control it yourself, or you might have to remove a situation, person, or an object.
Amazing. And so I got this crystal from you. You were saying before you send people crystals and do work. Do you want to just explain how you do that and what that involves?
Yeah, cool. So I go and personally pick all the crystals. I don't shop online for any of them really. A couple of my pieces for jewelry making I do. But a lot of my big pieces, like this nice big chunk of citrine here, a lot of stuff I go and I actually intuitively pick myself. So I can pick quality, but then I can be drawn to it. I had a situation recently where I grabbed tiger's eye, and I've never stocked tiger's eye before. And I went to 2 of the different warehouses, and in both places I grabbed tiger's eye. I was like, okay.
Something about it.
Cool. 2 days later, I had a client message me and say, I need something. I'm getting really anxious at work. I'm getting really stressed. I'm flying off the handle. She's like, what can I do? I was like, awesome. I've got these 2 tiger's eye flat stones. Put them in your pocket and just put your hands in your pocket when you need to feel grounded. And tiger's eye helps with anxiety and things like that.
Amazing.
And so I was like, that's why I needed to buy the tiger's eye, because this is a brand new client, never spoken to her about crystals, never even really communicate. I just knew of her from being in the local area, and she just reached out, and I was like, I have this tool for you right now already. So a lot of mine is intuitive. I have done crystal healing diploma, crystal certificates, all online. Everything's online. With a lot of your crystal healing and your some of the holistic healing and stuff like that, it's not nationally recognised. There's no so there's heaps of different training academies. And at the end of the day, join the training academy that you feel drawn to, and you will get out of it what you get out of it. I'm doing another crystal course at the moment just because I like the look of it. At the moment, it's actually the same stuff I've already done.
Of course.
But there was something that drew me to it. So I'll complete it and I'll know why.
Amazing.
But for me, with businesses and things like that, I generally, the business owner will contact me. And I just ask a few questions, get a feel for the space, a feel for the team, their services. And then I just intuitively pick a grid or a kit. I've got a couple of kits that I'm taking with me to Canberra this weekend. All salon owners, all business kits. All totally different.
So cool.
So different, because some were having issues with loyalty, honesty, and communication in their teams. Others just want abundance and, money. And so I sent a kit down to Victoria to a beauty salon as well. And she actually ended up, I think she had 6 beauty rooms. So we did pieces for each beauty room.
Amazing.
So there's heaps of options, but that's how I work. It's not a pick this one online. It is an intuitive process. And then I just I basically then write a message as to why I felt I picked those pieces and to where to utilize them and place them and that kind of stuff. So it's a really amazing feeling. After I've done it, there's a really powerful energy that I get within myself picking them. and selecting them and putting them together.
Yeah.
And then once I've sent them on their way, like it's really, really cool. I went to a salon this week in Toowoomba who'd bought a kit from me.
Yeah.
And walking into the space, I'd previously been in there, so I noticed a difference.
Yeah, right.
But it was really cool because then I sat at the station and the crystals were right there at my feet.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh, cool.
Special.
Yeah, it was such a rewarding feeling.
Amazing.
It's just like you guys walking around and your clients, you know, sending you a selfie or enjoying their treatment, or you bump into them and, you know, they're glowing because of what you've given them.
Yeah.
And that's what I can contribute with crystals and energy and that kind of stuff.
Amazing. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast today and coming to my house.
Yes.
And willing to be on video.
Yes.
And it's been really special having you.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's really cool. And like I said earlier at the start, you know, as an industry, we're a whole. Like, we're two different trades.
Yeah.
But we're a whole. At the end of the day, we just want to put our skills and our talents to the best use possible to help others feel better and be more confident. So if we can do that with our skills and our hands as well as our energy, we can just take our services to the next level. We really can change that whole customer experience.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited for both of our industries to get to this level and to give their clients that experience as well.
Yeah, and obviously as well, like we were saying, leadership too, being able to communicate with teams. I think that's the biggest thing that you would, as well as being like a business coach, and I've worked with business owners. A lot of the time the issues are getting new clients, keeping clients, team.
Yes.
Like, it's not money, it's not stock, it's not skills, it's all about, it's people.
It's people.
It's people.
Bloody humans.
The problem is humans, damn it. But yeah, thank you so much. I really am so grateful to have you now as a part of my network and my community. And I'm really glad that I can contribute to your community.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hug it out.
Hugs. Oh.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us today. It is always appreciated, and as you can hear, this is what happens when you have a conversation with me. It just doesn't stop. But I guess you already knew that, right? Your girl loves a chat. But what I love most about Cass is how she takes the woo out of crystals and energy and puts it into a really practical way of understanding it all, and also how she uses them to harness that energy for strength with her team and her leadership sessions. I mean, just imagine working with her. How much fun would that be? If you have loved the conversation today and want to hear more from Cass, you can do so by following her on the gram or on her public page on Facebook at Cass Barrie. To be notified, as always, about all the beauty industry goodness and news, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to the podcast, and are also following us on the socials at Beauty Industry and myself at Tamara Shaw Reid. Until next time, stay connected.